Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Understanding Business. Chapter 1. Narrated by Omar Mohsen Ibrahim Fouad. Part 1. Business Trends. Cultivating a business in diverse global environments. 1. Taking risks and making profits within the dynamic business environment. Page 1. Learning Objectives. After you have read and studied this chapter, you should be able to describe the relationship between profit and risk and show how businesses and nonprofit organizations can raise the standard of living for all. Explain how entrepreneurship and the other factors of production contribute to the creation of wealth. Analyze the effects of the economic environment and taxes on businesses. Describe the effects of technology on businesses. Demonstrate how businesses can meet and beat competition. Analyze the social changes affecting businesses. Identify what businesses must do to meet global challenges, including war and terrorism. Review how past trends are being repeated in the present and what those trends mean for tomorrow's college graduates. Page 2. Getting to know Damon John, founder and CEO of Fubu. Sometimes the best business ideas hide in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by the right entrepreneur with the drive to turn a great idea into reality. For Fubu founder and Shark Tank star Damon John, his path to prosperity began in 1989 when he noticed a fashion trend developing in his neighborhood. Many young people in the New York City borough of Queens had started to wear short snow caps with the tops cut off that were then cinched together with string. Simple items that cost as much as $20 at the department stores. Shocked by the high price people were willing to pay for a hat, John enlisted the help of a neighbor and soon sewed dozens of snow caps. He sold the caps for $10 a piece in Harlem, not far from the famous Apollo Theater. He was astounded when he ended up with $800 after his first day. Knowing he had a great concept on his hands, John threw himself into his new apparel business. As a nod to the venture's do-it-yourself origins, he named the company Fubu, for us, by us. To go along with his distinctive brand name, John designed a graffiti-inspired logo and sewed it onto sweatshirts, tees, and other sportswear. Despite a strong start, though, he soon ran into problems, as more than 24 banks turned down his loan requests. John's mother took out a second mortgage on her house to provide her son with $100,000. But even with this vital cash injection, he found it difficult to have enough time to run the company. After a day of calling distributors and sewing, John would then trudge off to his night job as a server at Red Lobster. Fubu ended up running out of money 3 times, which made him consider abandoning the idea altogether. Then, in 1992, John and his partners relaunched the company and pursued an innovative marketing strategy focused on getting their clothes into the hands of celebrities. After all, John knew he wasn't the only talented individual from Queens. The borough had also been home to hip-hop legends like Run DMC, Salt and Pepper, and LL Cool J. John wanted to take advantage of the publicity that celebrity partnerships could bring to the company, but he had precious little stock that he could part with. "We took the same 10 shirts and placed them in videos," said John. "For 2 years, we'd take them to an artist and then take them back and put them on other artists, and became known as a huge clothing company with 10 shirts. The brand's biggest booster became LL Cool J, who made a point to support people from his neighborhood and wore Fubu clothes as often as he could. In fact, in 1999, the rapper wore a Fubu hat in a commercial for Gap, causing the retailer to pull the commercial a month later when executives realized they had unknowingly promoted another brand. By that point, though, the spot had done wonders to raise Fubu's profile. John soon brokered a distribution deal with Samsung's textile division. John soon brokered a distribution deal with Samsung's textile division that generated more than $30 million in just a few months. After years of struggling, at last he established Fubu as one of the hottest fashion labels in the United States. According to John, the company has since rung up more than $6 billion in worldwide sales. John's massive success attracted the attention of the producers of Shark Tank, a television show about deep-pocketed investors who listen to pitches from hopeful entrepreneurs looking for guidance and cash. At first, John was skeptical about joining the show since it required him to put up his own money. Still, the idea of investing intrigued him after the years he spent hustling to build Fubu. "Why do I always have to be the one to do all the hard work?" said John. "Why don't I put my money to use to let my money work for me?" So far, John has invested $15 million of his own money in more than 100 startups, with his biggest returns coming from his stake in the sock brand Bombas. He also hosts a star-studded annual event called Black Entrepreneurs Day at the Apollo Theater, bringing his one-of-a-kind career full circle. The business environment is constantly changing. Along with those changes come opportunities. The purpose of this chapter and this textbook is to introduce you to the dynamic world of business and some of the people who thrive in it. Business people, like Damon John, contribute much to the communities they serve, and they also make a good living doing so. That's what business is all about. Sources: Jair Hilburn, Damon John is on a mission, Forbes.com, January 17th, 2022. Christian Massa, How Damon John Went from Selling T-shirts on the Street to Running a $350 million company. Entrepreneur.com, March 23rd, 2022. Jeff Conway, Shark Tank investor. Damon John is creating better opportunities for others with Black Entrepreneurs Day. Forbes.com, October 6th, 2022. Darren Presley, Learn How to Pitch. Damon John talks to Black Enterprise ahead of Black Entrepreneurs Day. Black Enterprise, October 22nd, 2022. Octavio Blanco, Damon John on hip-hop, his mom, and making it big. CNN.com. Accessed February 2023. Page 3. This Korea-based company is building new EV and battery manufacturing facilities in Bryan County, Georgia. Name that company. Find the answer in the chapter. Business and wealth building. LO 1-1. Describe the relationship between profit and risk and show how businesses and nonprofit organizations can raise the standard of living for all. When Scott Seamans showed Lyndon Duke Hansen and George Bodecker a pair of foam boating clogs he helped design, his two friends initially reacted with skepticism toward their pal's taste in footwear. Once they set style aside, though, they were won over by the shoe's comfort, slip resistance, and ability to float. The trio soon went into business together as Crocs, a company that now earns billions of dollars in annual sales. What risks and rewards did these three entrepreneurs face when starting their business? Success in business depends on consistently adapting to changes in the market. A business is any activity that seeks to provide goods and services to others while operating at a profit. To earn that profit, you provide desired goods, jobs, and services to people or other businesses. Goods are tangible products such as computers, food, clothing, cars, and appliances. Services are intangible products, i.e., important example, products that can't be held in your hand, such as education, healthcare, insurance, recreation, and travel and tourism. Once you have developed the right goods and services based on consumer wants and needs, you need to reach those consumers using whatever media they prefer, including social media, online advertising, television, and more. Although you don't need to have wealth as a primary goal, one result of successfully filling a market need is that you can make money for yourself. Sometimes a great deal by giving customers what they want. Sam Walton of Walmart began by opening one store in Arkansas and over time became one of the richest people in the United States. Now his heirs are some of the richest people in the United States. There are nearly 30 million millionaires in the United States. Maybe you will be one of them someday if you start your own business. An entrepreneur is a person who risks time and money to start and manage a business. Revenues, profits, and losses. Revenue is the total amount revenues, profits, and losses. Revenue is the total amount of money a business takes in during a given period by selling goods and services. Profit is the amount of money a business earns above and beyond what it spends for salaries and other expenses needed to run the operation. A loss occurs when a business's expenses are more than its revenues. If a business loses money over time, it will likely have to close, putting its employees out of work. Approximately 50% of small businesses close in the first 5 years. As noted, the business environment is constantly changing. What seems like a great opportunity one day may become a huge failure when the economy changes. Think of all the changes businesses needed to make during the COVID-19 pandemic. Starting a business may thus come with huge risks. But huge risks often result in huge profits. We'll explore that concept next. Page 4. Matching risk with profit. Risk is the chance an entrepreneur takes of losing time and money on a business that may not prove profitable. Profit, remember, is the amount of money a business earns above and beyond what it pays out for salaries and other expenses. For example, if Page 4. Matching risk with profit. Risk is the chance an entrepreneur takes of losing time and money on a business that may not prove profitable. Profit, remember, is the amount of money a business earns above and beyond what it pays out for salaries and other expenses. For example, if you were to start a business selling hot dogs from a cart in the summer, you would have to pay for the cart rental. You would also have to pay for the hot dogs and other materials, and for someone to run the cart while you were away. After you paid your employee and yourself, paid for the food and materials you used, paid the rent on the cart, and paid your taxes, any money left over would be profit. Keep in mind that profit is over and above the money you pay yourself in salary. You could use any profit to rent or buy a second cart and hire other employees. After a few summers, you might have a dozen carts employing dozens of workers. Not all enterprises make the same amount of profit. Usually, those that take the most risk may make the most profit. There is high risk, for example, in making a new kind of automobile. It's also risky to open a business in an inner city because insurance and rent are usually higher than in suburban areas. But reduced competition makes substantial profit possible. Big risk can mean big profits. Just ask Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla, who is now one of the richest people in the world. Standard of living and quality of life. Entrepreneurs such as Sam Walton of Walmart, Bill Gates of Microsoft, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and Sarah Blakely of Spanx not only became wealthy themselves, they also provided employment for many other people. Walmart is currently the nation's largest private employer, with Amazon coming in second. Businesses and their employees pay taxes that the federal government and local communities use to build hospitals, schools, libraries, playgrounds, roads, and other public facilities. Taxes also help keep the environment clean, support people in need, and provide police and fire protection. Thus, the wealth businesses generate and the taxes they pay help everyone in their communities. A nation's businesses are part of an economic system that contributes to the standard of living and quality of life for everyone in the country and potentially the world. How have the economic recovery and growth over the past 10 years affected the standard of living and quality of life in your part of the world? The term standard of living refers to the amount of goods and services people can buy with the money they have. Prices for goods and services in some locations are higher than in others. So people in those places can't buy as much with the same amount of money. Often, goods cost more in one country than in another because of higher taxes and stricter government regulations. Finding the right level of taxes and regulation is important in making a country or city prosperous. We'll explore those issues in more depth in Chapter 2. At this point, it is enough to understand that the United States enjoys a high standard of living, largely because of the wealth created by its businesses. The term quality of life refers to the general well-being of a society in terms of its political freedom. Natural environment, education, healthcare, safety, amount of leisure, and rewards that add to the satisfaction and joy that other goods and services provide. Maintaining a high quality of life requires the combined efforts of businesses, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies. Remember, there is more to quality of life than simply making money. Responding to the various business stakeholders. Stakeholders are all the people who stand to gain or lose by the policies and activities of a business and whose concerns the business needs to address. They include customers, employees, stockholders, suppliers, dealers, retailers, bankers, people in the surrounding community, the media, environmentalists, competitors, unions, critics, and elected government leaders. See Figure 1.1. Page 5. Figure 1.1. A business and its stakeholders. Often the needs of a firm's various stakeholders will conflict. For example, paying employees more may cut into stockholders' profits. Balancing such demands is a major role of business managers. A primary challenge for organizations of the 21st century will be to recognize and respond to the needs of their stakeholders. For example, the need for the business to make profits may be balanced against the needs of employees to earn sufficient income or the need to protect the environment. Ignore the media, and they might attack your business with articles that hurt sales. Oppose the local community, and it may stop you from expanding. Staying competitive may call for outsourcing. Outsourcing means contracting with other companies to do some or all of the functions of a firm, like its production or accounting tasks. Outsourcing tasks to companies in other countries has had serious Outsourcing tasks to companies in other countries has had serious consequences in some states where jobs have been lost to overseas competitors. We discuss offshore outsourcing in more detail in Chapter 3. The other side of the outsourcing coin is insourcing. Many foreign companies are setting up design and production facilities here in the United States. For example, Korea-based Hyundai design cars in California, operates engineering headquarters in Detroit, Michigan. produces cars in Montgomery, Alabama, and is building new electric vehicle and battery manufacturing facilities in Bryan County, Georgia. Japanese automaker Honda has been producing cars in the United States for 45 years and opened its 12th U.S. manufacturing plant in 2016. Insourcing creates many new U.S. jobs and helps offset those jobs being outsourced. McGraw-Hill Education Connect. I see it. Need help understanding the roles of stakeholders? Click on the video for a brief animated explanation. It may be legal and profitable to outsource, but is it best for all these stakeholders? Business leaders must make outsourcing decisions based on all factors. Pleasing stakeholders is not easy and often calls for trade-offs. The goals of nonprofit organizations are social and educational. Nonprofit oriented. The goals of nonprofit organizations are social and educational, not profit oriented. The American Red Cross, for example, provides assistance to millions of people annually, from refugees to victims of natural disasters like floods. Why do good management principles apply equally to profit-seeking businesses and nonprofit organizations? Page 6. Using business principles in nonprofit organizations. Despite their efforts to satisfy their stakeholders, businesses cannot do everything needed to make a community all it can be. Nonprofit organizations such as public schools, civic associations, charities like the United Way and the Salvation Army, and groups devoted to social causes also make a major contribution to the welfare of society. A non-profit organization is an organization whose goals do not include making a personal profit for its owners or organizers. Nonprofit organizations often do strive for financial gains, but they use them to meet their social or educational goals rather than for personal profit. Your interests may lead you to work for a nonprofit organization. That doesn't mean, however, that you shouldn't study business in college. You'll still need to learn business skills such as information management, leadership, marketing, and financial management. The knowledge and skills you acquire in this and other business courses are useful for careers in any organization, including nonprofits. We'll explore entrepreneurship right after the test prep. Test prep. What is the difference between revenue and profit? What is the difference between standard of living and quality of life? What is risk and how is it related to profit? What do the terms stakeholders, outsourcing, and insourcing mean? The importance of entrepreneurs to the creation of wealth. LO 1-2. Explain how entrepreneurship and the other factors of production contribute to the creation of wealth. There are two ways to succeed in business. One is to rise through the ranks of a large company. The advantage of working for others is that somebody else assumes the company's entrepreneurial risk and provides you with benefits like paid vacation time and health insurance. It's a good option, and many people choose it. The other riskier, but often more exciting path is to become an entrepreneur. Page 7. The national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, says that the United States is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Part of being free is being able to own your own business and reap the profits from it. But freedom to succeed also means freedom to fail. And many small businesses fail each year. It takes a brave person to start one. As an entrepreneur, you don't receive any benefits such as paid vacation time, daycare, a company car, or health insurance. You have to provide them for yourself. But what you gain, freedom to make your own decisions, opportunity, and possible wealth is often worth the effort. Before you take on the challenge, you should study successful entrepreneurs to learn the process. You can talk to them personally and read about them in Chapter 6, as well as in other books, magazines, e.g., Entrepreneur, Fast Company, and INC, and online, e.g., Small Business Administration at sba.gov. To create wealth for its citizens, a country requires more than natural resources. It needs the efforts of entrepreneurs and the skill and knowledge to produce goods and services. How can government support entrepreneurship and the spread of knowledge? The 5 factors of production. Have you ever wondered why some countries are relatively wealthy and others poor? Economists have been studying the issue of wealth creation for many years. They began by identifying 5 factors of production that seemed to contribute to wealth. See Figure 1.2. 1. Land or natural resources. Land and other natural resources are used to make homes, cars, and other products. 2. Labor workers. People have always been an important resource in producing goods and services. But many people are now being replaced by technology. 3. Capital. 3. Capital. This includes machines, tools, buildings, or whatever else is used in the production of goods. It might not include money. Money is used to buy factors of production, but is not always considered a factor by itself. 4. Entrepreneurship. All the resources in the world have little value unless entrepreneurs are willing to take the risk of starting businesses to use those resources. 5. Knowledge. Information technology has revolutionized business, making it possible to quickly determine wants and needs and to respond with desired goods and services. Figure 1.2. The 5 factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and knowledge. Page 8. Traditionally, business and economics textbooks emphasized only 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. But the late management expert and business consultant Peter Drucker said the most important factor of production in our economy is and always will be knowledge. What do we find when we compare the factors of production in rich and poor countries? Some poor countries have plenty of land and natural resources. Russia, for example, has vast areas of land with many resources, such as timber and oil, but it is not considered a rich country. Therefore, land isn't the critical element for wealth creation. Most poorer countries, such as Vietnam, have many laborers. So it's not labor that's the primary source of wealth today. Laborers need to find work to make a contribution. That is, they need entrepreneurs to create jobs for them. Furthermore, capital, machinery, and tools is now fairly easy for firms to find in world markets. So capital isn't the missing ingredient either. Capital is not productive without entrepreneurs to put it to use. What makes rich countries rich today is a combination of entrepreneurship and the effective use of knowledge. Entrepreneurs use what they've learned, knowledge, to grow their businesses and increase wealth. Economic and political freedom also matter. The business environment either encourages or discourages entrepreneurship. That helps explain why some states and cities in the United States grow rich while others remain relatively poor. In the following section, we'll explore what makes up the business environment and how to build an environment that encourages growth and job creation. Test prep. What are some of the advantages of working for others? What benefits do you lose by being an entrepreneur, and what do you gain? What are the 5 factors of production? Which ones seem to be the most important for creating wealth? The business environment. The business environment consists of the surrounding factors that either help or hinder the development of businesses. Figure 1.3 shows the 5 elements in the business environment. Figure 1.3, today's dynamic business environment. Global business environment. The economic and legal environment. 1. Freedom of ownership. 2. Contract laws. 3. Elimination of corruption. 4. Tradable currency. 5. minimum taxes and regulation. The technological environment. 1. Information technology. 2. Databases. 3. Barcodes. 4. The internet. The competitive environment. 1. Customer service. 2. Stakeholder recognition. 3. Employee service. 4. Concern for the environment. The social environment. 1. Diversity. 2. Demographic changes. 3. Family changes. Business management and job creation. Global competition, free trade, the quality imperative. The economic and legal environment. 1. 2. The technological environment. 3. The competitive environment. 4. The social environment. 5. The global business environment. McGraw-Hill Education Connect. I see it. Need help understanding the impact of today's dynamic business environment? Click on the video for a brief animated explanation.
One of the most important things to understand about business, any business, big or small, is that it does not operate inside a bubble. There are surrounding factors that have a huge impact, both positive and negative, on how a business is developed, managed, and operated. For one thing, starting up a business is risky. Entrepreneurs want to know that a country's economic system will support their efforts. Nations that do not allow private ownership or require firms to cut through a lot of red tape make it difficult for a free exchange of goods and services to take place. Technology, on the other hand, can make everything easier for a business. Digital devices help workers to be more productive. And thanks to the internet, firms can easily sell their goods all over the world. If a customer has a bad experience with a business, chances are there's a competitor waiting in the wings. Successful firms understand that the customer is king. A business must adapt to its customers' wants and needs, not the other way around. Robots don't run companies, at least not yet. Workforces are enormously diverse when it comes to age, race, gender, family structure, and more. Businesses must support these differences if they want to hire and keep the best workers. Finally, no company can survive without considering globalization. World trade has increased the standard of living of many nations, but it's also led to the outsourcing of millions of jobs. The bottom line, a business that pays attention and adapts to these surrounding factors is much more likely to succeed, as well as enrich the lives of its citizens in the community and across the globe.
Businesses that create wealth and jobs grow and prosper in a healthy environment. Thus, creating the right business environment is the foundation for social benefits of all kinds, including good schools, clean air and water, good health care, and low rates of crime. Businesses normally can't control their environment, but they need to monitor it carefully and do what they can to adapt as it changes. LO 1-3. Analyze the effects of the economic environment and taxes on businesses. The economic and legal environment. People are willing to start new businesses if they believe the risk of losing their money isn't too great. The economic system and the way government works, with or against businesses, can have a strong impact on that level of risk. For example, a government can minimize spending and keep taxes and regulations to a minimum. Policies that tend to favor business. Much of the debate before elections is often focused on whether to raise or cut taxes, how to control government spending, and whether to cut regulations. Page 9. One way for government to actively promote entrepreneurship is to allow private ownership of businesses. In some countries, the government owns most businesses, and there's little incentive for people to work hard or create profit. Around the world today, however, some governments are selling those businesses to private individuals to create more wealth. One of the best things the governments of less developed countries can do is to minimize interference with the free exchange of goods and services. You can read more about the various economic systems in different countries in Chapter 2. The government can further lessen the risks of entrepreneurship by passing laws that enable business people to write enforceable contracts. In the United States, the Uniform Commercial Code, for example, regulates business agreements such as contracts and warranties so that firms know they can rely on one another. In countries that don't yet have such laws, the risks of starting a business are that much greater. You can read more about business laws in bonus chapter A. The government can also establish a currency that's tradable in world markets. That is the currency lets you buy and sell goods and services anywhere in the world when it is easily exchanged for that of the other countries where you do business. That is, the currency lets you buy and sell goods and services anywhere in the world when it is easily exchanged for that of the other countries where you do business. If the Chinese government did not want to trade its yuan for the US dollar, for instance, it's hard to imagine how Coca-Cola or Disney would be able to sell their products and services there. You can read more about currency in Chapter 3 and Chapter 20. Page 10. Starting a business is more difficult in some countries than in others. In India, for example, it takes a time-consuming and bureaucratic process to obtain government permission. Nonetheless, new businesses can become a major source of wealth and employment. This sari shop is one small example. What do you think would be the effect of a little more freedom to create business opportunities in this country of more than 1.4 billion people? Finally, the government can help minimize corruption in business and in its own ranks. Where governments are corrupt, it's difficult to build a factory or open a store without a government permit, which is obtained largely through bribery of public officials. Among businesses themselves, unscrupulous leaders can threaten their competitors and unlawfully minimize competition. Many laws in the United States attempt to minimize corruption. Nonetheless, corrupt and illegal activities at some companies do negatively affect the business community and the economy as a whole. The news media widely report these scandals. Ethics is so important to the success of businesses and the economy as a whole that we feature stories about ethics in most chapters and devote Chapter 4 to the subject. Governments from different countries can work together to create an environment that allows entrepreneurship to thrive. For example, in 2015, the United Nations adopted what it calls Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. That list specific targets for ending poverty and improving the lives of people who are economically disadvantaged by 2030. The ultimate goal is to move toward prosperity by partnering governments, businesses, and nonprofits in order to solve problems at the ground level in less developed countries. LO 1-4. Describe the effects of technology on businesses. The technological environment. Since prehistoric times, humans have felt the need to create tools that make work easier. Few technological changes have had a more comprehensive and lasting impact on businesses. However, then information technology, IT. IT has completely changed the way people communicate with one another. Advertisers and other business people have created ways of using these tools to reach their suppliers and customers. Even politicians have harnessed the power of the internet to advance their causes. IT is such a major force in business today that we discuss its impact on businesses throughout the entire text. How technology benefits workers and you. Technology means everything from phones to computers, mobile devices, medical imaging machines, robots, the internet, artificial intelligence, social media, and the various software programs and apps that make businesses processes more effective, efficient, and productive. Effectiveness means producing the desired result. Efficiency means producing goods and services using the least amount of resources and adapting to change. Box discusses how some businesses strive to become so effective and efficient that they create no waste. Page 11. Adapting to change. Maintaining cycles of sustainability with a circular economy. PlantChicago.org. There's no denying that people around the world create a lot of waste. Each year, more than 63 million tons of food end up in landfills, with an additional 10 million tons remaining unharvested on farms. Less than 1% of the material used to produce clothing gets recycled into new apparel. The vast majority of plastic doesn't get recycled either, with much of it ending up in garbage dumps or incinerators. Besides squandering resources, the world's waste also pollutes the environment and contributes to rising greenhouse gas emissions. To combat this problem of global proportions, some entrepreneurs have launched companies that depend on a circular economy to succeed. Circular economy refers to reusing, redistributing, refurbishing, and recycling products instead of dumping them in landfills. In other words, keeping products in the value cycle. The aim is to produce no waste, as every material is either recycled or reused in some capacity. For example, the Chicago-based firm Bubbly Dynamics refurbishes vacant industrial buildings and transforms them into sustainable business incubators. At one site called The Plant, indoor farms irrigated with rainwater and powered by solar panels help more than 20 companies thrive without creating unnecessary waste. The plant's largest tenant is a brewery that produces tons of compost every month, providing plenty of fertilizer for the facility's farmers. Other companies have driven by the circular economy include Earth Angel, a Brooklyn startup that recycles waste generated by film and television productions based in New York. The company donates mattresses and used clothing to humanitarian agencies while redistributing old scenery to independent theaters and filmmakers. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Earth Angel found a whole new calling as it began specializing in maintaining clean and green sets that kept productions running smoothly in sanitized environments with small crews. Circular enterprises like these certainly live up to the goal put forward by air quality expert and former National Climate Advisor Gina McCarthy. We can reframe climate solutions as opportunities to invest in public health, which will make our world healthier while we forge a future we can be proud to hand to our children. Sources: Rachel Dottle and Jackie Gu. The Global Glute of Clothing is an environmental crisis. Bloomberg, Bloomberg.com, February 23rd, 2022. Natalie Obiko Pearson, Iko Danto, and Dwani Pandya. Fast fashion waste is choking developing countries with mountains of trash. Bloomberg, Bloomberg.com, November 2nd, 2022. Dale Bus, The Bountiful Promise of Indoor Farming. Food Technology Magazine, IFT.org, October 1st, 2022. Jane Margolis, Destined for the Dump, Construction Waste Gets New Life in the Garden. The New York Times, NewYorkTimes.com, November 29th, 2022. Earth Angel, EarthAngelSets.com, accessed February 2023. Ellen MacArthur Foundation, EllenMacArthurFoundation.org, accessed February 2023. The Plant, InsideThePlant.com, accessed February 2023. Productivity is the amount of output you generate given the amount of input, such as the number of hours you work. The more you can produce in any given period, the more money you are worth to companies. The problem with productivity today is that workers are so productive that fewer are needed. Technology affects people in all industries. For example, a farmer can use a computer to compare data from the previous year's harvest with drone or satellite photos of the farm. That show which crops are flourishing. The farmer can check the latest grain prices and use the website newagtalk.com to converse with other farmers from all over the world. The farmer can also save money on chemicals by bidding for bulk fertilizer on farmtrade.com, an online agricultural exchange. High-tech equipment tells people how and where to spread fertilizer and seed, tracks yields yard by yard, and allows them to maintain high profit margins. Of course, more tech often means fewer workers. Is that a good or a bad thing for farmers? Page 12. The growth of e-commerce. E-commerce is the buying and selling of goods online. There are two major types of e-commerce transactions: business to consumer, B to C, and business to business, B to B. Nearly a quarter of all retail sales in the United States are expected to be made online in 2025. As important as the internet has been to online retailers in the consumer market, it has become even more important in the B2B market, where businesses sell goods and services to one another, such as IBM selling consulting services to a local bank. E-commerce has become so important that we discuss it in many chapters throughout the text. Using technology to be responsive to customers. A major theme of this text is that those businesses most responsive to using technology to be responsive to customers. A major theme of this text is that those businesses most responsive to customer wants and needs will succeed. Technology can help businesses respond to customer needs in many ways. For example, businesses use barcodes to identify products you buy and their size, quantity, and color. The scanner at the checkout counter identifies the price, but can also put all your purchase information into a database, an electronic storage file for information. Walt Disney World's Magic Band provides an all-in-one way for guests to connect with the various vacation choices they made online before their trip. Using RFID technology, the Magic Band serves as a park ticket, hotel room key, and payment system that also gives guests access to extras like Disney's PhotoPass. Do you think the Magic Band encourages visitors to make more purchases in the park? Databases enable stores to carry only the merchandise their local customers want, but because companies routinely trade database information, many retailers know what you buy and from whom you buy it. Thus, they can send you online ads or catalogs and other direct mail advertising offering the kind of products you might want based on your past purchases. We discuss many of the other ways businesses use technology to be responsive to consumers throughout the text. Unfortunately, the legitimate collection of personal customer information also opens the door to identity theft. Identity theft is the obtaining of individuals' personal information, such as social security and credit card numbers, for illegal purposes. For example, in 2017, Equifax, one of the credit bureaus charged with protecting consumers from identity theft and fraud, was hacked itself. The data breach exposed the personal information of 147 million people. Equifax agreed to spend up to $425 million to help people affected by the breach. Experts advise us to create new passwords for each account, so that if the password on one account is stolen, the hackers can't access the rest of your accounts too. They also recommend storing them in a password manager and activating multi-factor authentication, which is an additional layer of security when possible. The Federal Trade Commission says millions of U.S. consumers are victims of identity theft each year. Cybersecurity will continue to be a major concern of governments, business, and consumers. Many people are concerned about how technology might be used to invade the privacy of their phone or email conversations, or even to track their movement through facial recognition technology used in stores, in casinos, on cruise ships, and in other public places. You can read more about security and privacy issues and how businesses use technology to manage information in Bonus Chapter B. LO 1-5. Demonstrate how businesses can meet and beat competition. The competitive environment, competition among businesses has never been greater. Some have found a competitive edge by focusing on quality. The goal for many companies is 0 defects, no mistakes in making the product. However, even achieving a rate of 0 defects isn't enough to stay competitive in world markets. Companies now have to offer both high-quality products and good value. That is, outstanding service at competitive prices. Competing by exceeding customer expectations. Today's customers want not only good quality at low prices, but great service as well. Every manufacturing and service organization in the world should have a sign over its door telling its workers that the customer is king. Business has become more customer driven, not management driven. As often occurred in the past, successful organizations must now listen more closely to customers to determine their wants and needs, and then adjust the firm's products, policies, and practices accordingly. We will explore these ideas in more depth in Chapter 13. Page 13. Competing by restructuring and empowerment. To meet the needs of customers, firms must give their frontline workers, for example, office employees, front desk people at hotels, and salespeople, the responsibility, authority, freedom, training, and equipment they need to respond quickly to customer requests. They also must allow workers to make other decisions essential to producing high-quality goods and services. The process is called empowerment, and we'll be talking about it throughout this book. As many companies have discovered, it sometimes takes years to restructure an organization so that managers can and will give up some of their authority and employees will assume more responsibility. We'll discuss such organizational changes in Chapter 8. LO 1-6. Analyze the social changes affecting businesses. The social environment, demography, is the statistical study of the human population with regard to its size, density, and other characteristics such as age, race, gender, and income. In this text, we're particularly interested in the demographic trends that most affect businesses and career choices. The U.S. population is going through major changes that are dramatically affecting how people live, where they live, what they buy, and how they spend their time. Furthermore, tremendous population shifts are leading to new opportunities for some firms and to declining opportunities for others. For example, there are many more retired workers than in the past, creating new markets for all kinds of goods and services. Managing diversity. Diversity means much more than recruiting and retaining ethnic or racial minority and female employees. Diversity efforts include older adults, people with disabilities, people with different sexual orientations, atheists, religious people, extroverts, introverts, married people, and single people. It also means dealing sensitively with workers and cultures around the world. Managing diversity involves creating a workplace that promotes inclusion and belonging. Inclusion is about having a voice that is heard. Belonging is about feeling part of a community. Legal and undocumented immigrants have had a dramatic effect on many regions and will continue to do so as the government debates immigration reform. Businesses, schools, and hospitals have been especially affected. Some local governments are making efforts to adapt, including changing signs, brochures, websites, and forms to include other languages. Has your city experienced such changes? What are some of the impacts you've noticed? How has the debate about changing immigration policies affected your community? Page 14. The increase in the number of older citizens. People aged 75 and over are currently the richest demographic group in the United States. Therefore, they represent a lucrative market for companies involved with food service, transportation, entertainment, education, lodging, healthcare, and so on. By 2030, the percentage of the population 65 or older will be over 20%. By 2050, it will more than double. The older adult population will also become more ethnically diverse. The proportion of older non-Hispanic white adults is projected to decrease from 77% in 2017 to 55% by 2060. What do these changes mean for you and for businesses in the future? Think of the products and services that middle-aged and older people will need. Medicine, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, adult daycare, home health care, transportation, recreation, and the like. And you'll see opportunities for successful businesses of the 21st century. Don't rule out computer games and online services. Businesses that cater to older consumers will have the opportunity for exceptional growth in the near future. The market is huge. The United States boasts enormous ethnic and racial diversity. Its workforce is also widely diverse in terms of age, which means that managers must adapt to the generational demographics of the workplace. What are some challenges of working with someone much younger or much older than you? On the other hand, retired people will be draining the economy of wealth. Social Security has become a major issue. The pay-as-you-go system, in which workers today pay the retirement benefits for today's retirees, operated just fine in 1940 when 42 workers supported each retiree. But by 1960, there were only 5 workers per retiree. And now, as members of the baby boom generation, born between 1946 and 1964, retire, that number was 2.8 in 2021 and is projected to drop to 2.3 by 2038. In addition, the government has been spending some of the accumulated Social Security money instead of leaving it all in the Social Security account. Today, less money is coming into Social Security than is going out. The difference is covered by the Social Security cash reserves, but those are expected to be depleted by 2034. After that, annual taxes are expected to cover only about 78% of the benefits yearly. The government will have to do something to make up for the shortfall. Raise taxes, reduce Social Security benefits, raise the retirement age at which people qualify for payments, reduce spending elsewhere, and other social programs like Medicare or Medicaid, or borrow on the world market. In short, paying Social Security to older citizens in the future will draw huge amounts of money from the working population. That is why there is so much discussion in the media today about what to do to save Social Security. The increase in the number of single-parent families. It is a tremendous task to work full-time and raise a family. Thus, the growth of single-parent households has also had a major effect on businesses, whereas only 7% of parents were single in 1950. Today, a third of the children in the United States live with a single parent. Single parents, including those forced by welfare, rules to return to work after a certain benefit period, have encouraged businesses to implement programs such as family leave, giving workers time off to attend to a sick child or elder relative, and flex time, allowing workers to arrive or leave at selected times. You will read about such programs in more detail in Chapter 11. More and more working families consist of single parents who must juggle the demands of a job and the responsibilities of raising children. What can managers do to try to retain valued employees who face such challenges? The rise of Gen Z's economic influence. Generation Z, those born between 1995 and 2009, will soon be the largest group of consumers in the world, accounting for as much as $360 billion in spending power in the United States alone. Designing products and services to meet the broad tastes of this demographic is critical to the success of many companies. In order to reach these consumers, marketers have to use a variety of tools to capture their attention and engage them. The Connecting Through Social Media box discusses how a few companies are using social media to connect with Gen Zers, also called Zoomers. Page 15. Connecting through social media. Companies compete for the online attention of Gen Z. As Generation Z moves into college and professional careers, companies are starting to realize the enormous purchasing power held by this up and coming age group. In fact, one report estimates that Gen Zers or Zoomers command $360 billion in disposable income, a staggering sum that brands cannot afford to ignore. Still, reaching Zoomers is no easy task, as these social media savvy consumers have developed some unique online habits over a lifetime of internet use. For instance, an advertiser would not be surprised to hear that Zoomers are active on TikTok, accounting for 1/3 of the short video apps user base. What marketers might not know, though, is how many Zoomers depend on TikTok for nearly everything online, using the service like Google to answer questions and find out general information. we keep learning over and over again that new internet users don't have the expectations and the mindset that we have become accustomed to, said Google executive Prabhakar Raghavan, responding to a study that showed young people preferred to use TikTok and Instagram to look for lunch recommendations. The queries they ask are completely different. So how can companies hope to stand out in the busy feeds of ever-scrolling Zoomers? One proven strategy is to enlist influencers to act as brand ambassadors, providing instant access to engaged audiences that can number in the millions. Of course, selecting the right influencer for the right brand can be challenging, which is why many companies simply purchase space directly on TikTok, which sold $12 billion worth of ads in 2022. That number is only expected to increase in the years to come as brands continue to fight for the lucrative attention of Generation Z. Sources: Nora Mulinda and Amina Niesi. Gen Z uses TikTok like Google, upsetting the old internet order. Bloomberg, Bloomberg.com. July 29th, 2022. Suzanne Vernica and Lisa Lynn. TikTok grabs more ad dollars as marketers look to attract Gen Z and millennials. The Wall Street Journal, WSJ.com. June 21st, 2022. Jeff Fromm. As Gen Z's buying power grows, businesses must adapt their marketing. Forbes, Forbes.com, July 20th, 2022. 70 plus statistics on Gen Z spending habits for 2023. Lexington Law, LexingtonLaw.com, March 7th, 2023. LO1-7. Identify what businesses must do to meet global challenges, including war and terrorism. The global environment. The global environment of business is so important that we show it as surrounding all other environmental influences. See again, figure 1.3. Two important issues here are the growth of global competition and the negotiation of trade agreements among nations. World trade, or globalization, has grown due to the development of efficient distribution systems. We'll talk about these in Chapter 15. And technological advances, such as online communication systems. Globalization has greatly improved living standards around the world. China and India have become major U.S. competitors. Shop at Walmart and most other U.S. retail stores, and you can't help but notice the number of Made in China stickers you see. Call for computer help, and you are as likely to be talking with someone in India as someone in the United States. World trade has its benefits and costs. Trading with other countries can greatly reduce the costs of parts and products, but it can also cause major disruptions if there are supply chain issues, as there were during the COVID pandemic. You'll read much more about the importance of world trade in Chapter 3 and in the Reaching Beyond Our Borders boxes throughout the text. This chapter's Reaching Beyond Our Borders box discusses how KFC adapted its products to meet the needs of its global markets. War and terrorism. War and terrorism have drained trillions of dollars a year from the U.S. economy. As of this writing, the United States spent about $113 billion to support Ukraine since Russia invaded in 2022, and more than $849 billion in the 20-year war in Afghanistan. The amount requested by the Department of Defense for 2023 was $773 billion. Some companies, like those that make bullets, tanks, and uniforms, have benefited greatly. Others, however, lost workers to the armed forces, and still others have grown more slowly as money was diverted to the war effort. The threat of more wars and terrorism leads the government to spend even more money on spying and the military. Such expenditures are subject to much debate. The increased unrest in the world adds great uncertainty. This uncertainty is considered by some to be the biggest risk in business. It is difficult to plan when there are so many unknown factors, such as how changes in the military policy will affect the economy. Page 16. Reaching Beyond Our Borders. KFC's finger-licking good global offerings. KFC.com. With more than 22,000 restaurants in over 135 countries, KFC has grown beyond its humble Kentucky roots into a truly global powerhouse. And while much of the chain's success can be credited to its famous blend of 11 herbs and spices, fried chicken is far from the only offering on KFC's worldwide menus. In Thailand, for instance, KFC customers can pick up a box of shrimp donuts, while Singapore locations sell authentic egg tarts and mac and cheese zingers, chicken sandwiches with buns made of macaroni and cheese. The company's zinger chicken sandwich originated in Trinidad and Tobago in the 1980s and has since become a global hit, with Australian KFCs selling more than 22 million zingers annually. Other innovative items include the Cheesa, a pizza with a fried chicken crust sold in the Philippines, as well as Canada's Chachos, which replaces the tortilla chips traditionally found in nachos with, you guessed it, fried chicken tenders. KFC is constantly updating its offerings thanks to the company's 18 food innovation teams located throughout the world. These imaginative culinarians follow regional trends and develop dishes based on local tastes, which may not always appeal to everyone. For example, mint chocolate flavoring became a fad recently in South Korea, with green tinted sauce appearing on everything from burgers to rice cakes. KFC got in on the action with its own mint chocolate dipping sauce, a flavor that some compared to brushing your teeth while eating chicken. Still, KFC's Korean offices logged many requests from customers asking for the sauce to become a permanent menu addition, showing just how many different tastes global companies like KFC can possibly appeal to. Sources: Alicia Kelso, a look at the menu innovation driving KFC's global sales momentum. Forbes.com, July 22nd, 2019. Jae-young Son, mint chocolate on fried chicken. A food craze has everyone taking sides. The Wall Street Journal, WSJ.com, October 5th, 2022. Chris Heisman, International KFC menu items you won't find in the US. Mashed.com, February 2nd, 2023. Page 17. How global changes affect you. As businesses expand to serve global markets, new jobs will be created in both manufacturing and service industries. Global trade also means global competition. The students who will prosper will be those prepared for the markets of tomorrow. Rapid changes create a need for continuous learning. So be prepared to continue your education throughout your career. You'll have every reason to be optimistic about job opportunities in the future if you prepare yourself well. The ecological environment. Few issues have captured the attention of the international business community more than climate change. Climate change is the movement of the temperature of the planet up or down over time. There are some who remain unconvinced of the dangers of global warming. However, most scientists and many of the world's largest firms, including General Electric, Coca-Cola, Shell, Nestle, DuPont, Johnson & Johnson, British Airways, and Shanghai Electric, say the evidence for climate change is overwhelming. Saving energy and producing products that cause less harm to the environment, such as solar energy, is called greening. Test prep. What are 4 ways the government can foster entrepreneurship? What are the differences among effectiveness, efficiency, and productivity? What is empowerment? What are some of the major issues affecting the economy today? The evolution of U.S. business. LO 1-8. Review how past trends are being repeated in the present and what those trends mean for tomorrow's college students. Businesses in the United States have become so productive that they need fewer workers than ever before to produce goods. If global competition and improved technology are putting skilled people out of work, should we be concerned about the prospect of high unemployment rates and low incomes? Where will the jobs be when you graduate? These important questions force us all to look briefly at the U.S. economy and its future. Progress in the agricultural In manufacturing industries, the United States has experienced strong economic development since the 1800s. The agricultural industry led the way, providing food for the United States and much of the world. Inventions such as Cyrus McCormick's harvester in 1834 and modern improvements on such equipment did much to make large-scale farming successful. Technology has made modern farming so efficient that the number of farmers has dropped from about 33% of the population to less than 1% today. However, average farm size is now about 445 acres versus 150 acres in the past. Page 18. Agriculture is still a major industry in the United States. What has changed is that the millions of previously existing small farms have been replaced by some huge farms, some merely large farms, and some small but highly specialized farms. The loss of farm workers over the past century is not a negative sign. It is instead an indication that U.S. agricultural workers are the most productive in the world. Agriculture is one of the largest and most important industries in the United States. Over the years, technology has increased productivity and made farmers more efficient, allowing for larger farms. While this trend helps stabilize the prices of some foods for consumers, it has also greatly reduced the number of small, family-run farms. How do you think smaller farms could use agricultural technology to compete? Most farmers who lost their jobs during the 19th and 20th centuries went to work in factories springing up around the country. Manufacturers, like farms, began using new technology, new tools, and machines to become more productive. Eventually, the consequence in manufacturing, as in farming, was the elimination of many jobs. Again, the loss to society is minimized if the wealth created by increased productivity and efficiency creates new jobs elsewhere. And that's exactly what has happened over the past 50 years. Many workers in the industrial sector found jobs in the growing service sector. Most who can't find work today need retraining and education to become qualified for jobs that now exist or will exist in the near future, such as building wind farms or making electric automobiles. We'll discuss the manufacturing sector and production in more detail in Chapter 9. Progress in service industries. In the past, the fastest growing industries in the United States produced goods like steel, automobiles, and machine tools. Today, the fastest growing firms provide services in areas such as law, health, telecommunications, entertainment, and finance. Since the mid 1980s, the service sector has generated almost all the increases in employment. Together, services employ about 78% of workers in the United States. Chances are very high that you'll work in a service job at some point in your career. Figure 1.4 lists many service sector jobs. Look it over to see where the careers of the future are likely to be. Retailers like Nordstrom Rack are part of the service sector. Each new retail store can create managerial jobs for college graduates. Figure 1.4. What is the service sector? There's much talk about the service sector, but few discussions actually list what it includes. Here are examples of businesses in the service sector. Examples of businesses in the service sector: amusement and recreation services, amusement parks, racetracks, ice skating rinks, circuses, bowling alleys, golf courses, pool halls, symphony orchestras, botanical gardens, restaurants, infotainment, fairs, carnivals, video rentals. Business services: collection agencies, window cleaning, public relations, management services, tax preparation consulting, equipment rental, web design, detective agencies, trash collection, commercial photography, interior design, computer programming, accounting, stenographic services, exterminating, commercial art, employment agencies, research and development labs, ad agencies, legal services, lawyers, paralegals, notary publics, educational services, schools, libraries, online schools, computer schools, health services, chiropractors, nursery care, dentists, physicians, medical labs, dental labs, motion picture industry, production, distribution, theaters, drive-ins, social services, job training, elder care, family services, child care, automotive repair services and garages, transmission repair, car washes, tire retreading, exhaust system shops, truck rental, auto rental, paint shops, parking lots, financial services, banking, real estate agencies, investment firms, brokers, insurance, personal services, photographic studios, beauty shops, shoe repair, child care, tax preparation, health clubs, laundries, diaper service, funeral homes, carpet cleaning, linen supply, lodging services, hotels, rooming houses, and other lodging places, sporting and recreational camps, trailer parks, and campsites for transients, cultural institutions, non-commercial museums, art galleries, botanical and zoological gardens, selected membership organizations, civic associations, business associations, miscellaneous services, telecommunications, surveying, architectural, septic tank cleaning, engineering, radio and television, utilities, sharpening, lawn care, reupholstery, vending, watch repair, delivery, welding. Another bit of good news is that there are more high-paying jobs in the service sector than in the goods-producing sector. High-paying service sector jobs abound in healthcare, accounting, finance, entertainment, telecommunications, architecture, law, software engineering, and more. Projections are that some areas of the service sector will grow rapidly, while others may have much slower growth. The strategy for college graduates is to remain flexible, find out where jobs are being created, and move when appropriate. Progress in the information age. Despite the growth in the service sector we've described above, the service era is giving way to a new era. We're in the midst of an information-based global and technical revolution that is altering all sectors of the economy: agricultural, industrial, and service. In the information age, a significant portion of a company's value is based on its intellectual capital. Intellectual capital includes employee knowledge and skills that can be used to create new products, attract new customers, and increase profits. The new or enhanced products and services created by intellectual expertise in areas such as the technical and scientific fields encourage innovation in the economy as a whole. For example, universities and companies engaging in research and development may develop new software and search engines that can be passed on to workers in more traditional fields. Doctors can use the new technology to offer improved treatments, such as robot-assisted surgeries. Farmers can use the new software applications to manage their farm crops. Schools can provide students with digital study aids and online courses. Page 19. Your future in business. It's exciting to think about the role you'll play in business. You may be a leader who will implement the changes and accept the challenges of world competition based on world quality standards. This book will introduce you to some of the concepts that make such leadership possible, not just in business, but also in government agencies and nonprofit organizations. Business can't prosper in the future without the cooperation of government and social leaders throughout the world. Page 20. Test prep. What major factor caused people to move from farming to manufacturing and from manufacturing to the service sector? What does the future look like for tomorrow's college students? Summary. LO 1-1. Describe the relationship between profit and risk and show how businesses and nonprofit organizations can raise the standard of living for all. What is the relationship of businesses, profit to risk assumption? Profit is money a business earns above and beyond the money that it spends for salaries and other expenses. Business people make profits by taking risks. Risk is the chance an entrepreneur takes of losing time and money on a business that may not prove profitable. A loss occurs when a business's costs and expenses are higher than its revenues. Who are stakeholders, and which stakeholders are most important to a business? Stakeholders include customers, employees, stockholders, suppliers, dealers, bankers, the media, people in the local community, environmentalists, and elected government leaders. The goal of business leaders is to try to recognize and respond to the needs of these stakeholders and still make a profit. LO 1-2. Explain how entrepreneurship and the other factors of production contribute to the creation of wealth. What are the advantages and disadvantages of entrepreneurship? Working for others means getting benefits like paid vacations and health insurance. Entrepreneurs take more risks and lose those benefits. They gain the freedom to make their own decisions, more opportunity, and possible wealth. What are the 5 factors of production? The 5 factors of production are land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and knowledge. Of these, the most important are entrepreneurship and knowledge. Entrepreneurs are people who risk time and money to start and manage a business. What makes rich countries rich today is a combination of entrepreneurship and the effective use of knowledge. Page 21. LO 1-3. Analyze the effects of the economic environment and taxes on businesses. What can governments in less developed countries do to reduce the risk of starting businesses and thus help entrepreneurs? The government may allow private ownership of businesses, pass laws that enable business people to write contracts that are enforceable in court, establish a currency that's tradable in world markets, help lessen corruption in business and government, and keep taxes and regulations to a minimum. From a business perspective, lower taxes mean lower risks, more growth, and thus more money for workers and the government. LO 1-4. Describe the effects of technology on businesses. How has technology benefited workers, businesses, and consumers? Technology enables workers to be more effective, efficient, and productive. Effectiveness means doing the right thing in the right way. Efficiency means producing items using the least amount of resources. Productivity is the amount of output you generate given the amount of input. Important example, hours worked. LO 1-5. Demonstrate how businesses can meet and beat competition. What are some ways in which businesses meet and beat competition? Some companies have found a competitive edge by focusing on making high-quality products all the way to zero defects. Companies also aim to exceed customer expectations. Often that means empowering frontline workers by giving them more training and more responsibility and authority. LO 1-6. Analyze the social changes affecting businesses. How have social changes affected businesses? Diversity has come to mean much more than recruiting and keeping ethnic and racial minority and female employees. Diversity efforts now include older adults, people with disabilities, people with different sexual orientations, atheists, religious people, extroverts, introverts, married people, and single people. Managing diversity means dealing sensitively with workers and cultures around the world. Providing Social Security benefits to older citizens in the future will draw huge amounts of money from the working population. That is why there is so much discussion about Social Security in the media today. LO 1-7. Identify what businesses must do to meet global challenges, including war and terrorism. Which countries are creating the greatest competitive challenges? China and India are two major competitors. What will be the impacts of future wars and terrorism? Some businesses, such as those in the defense industry, may prosper. Others, such as tourism, may suffer. One way to minimize world tensions is to help less developed countries become more prosperous. LO 1-8. Review how past trends are being repeated in the present and what those trends mean for tomorrow's college graduates. What is the history of our economic development in the United States? And what does it tell us about the future? Agricultural workers displaced by improved farm technology went to work in factories, improved manufacturing productivity, and increased competition from foreign firms contributed to the development of a service economy in the United States. The service era is now giving way to an information-based global revolution that will affect all sectors of the economy. The secret to long-term success in such an economy is flexibility and continuing education to be prepared for the opportunities that are sure to rise. What job opportunities for college graduates exist in the service sector? Check over Figure 1.4, which outlines the service sector. That is where you are most likely to find the fast-growing firms of the future. Key terms. Business, page 3. Business environment, page 8. Climate change, page 17. Database, page 12. Demography, page 13. E-commerce, page 12. Empowerment, page 13. Entrepreneur, page 3. Factors of production, page 7. Goods, page 3. Greening, page 17. Identity theft, page 12. Loss, page 3. Non-profit organization, page 6. Outsourcing, page 5. Productivity, page 11. Profit, page 3. Quality of life, page 4. Revenue, page 3. Risk, page 4. Services, page 3. Stakeholders, page 4. Standard of living, page 4. Technology, page 10. Critical thinking. Imagine you are thinking of starting a restaurant in your community. Answer the following questions. 1. Who will be the various stakeholders of your business? 2. What are some of the things you can do to benefit your community other than providing jobs and tax revenue? 3. How will you establish good relationships with your suppliers, with your employees? 4. Do you see any conflict between your desire to be as profitable as possible and your desire to pay employees a living wage? 5. Which of the environmental factors outlined in this chapter might have the biggest impact on your business, and how? Putting principles to work. Purpose. To learn what changes are occurring in the business environment today and how those changes are affecting businesses. Exercise. 1. Go to the National Taxpayers Union website. Search for who pays income taxes. Study the tables showing what percentage of taxes the various income groups pay. Do you think that everyone pays their fair share? What percentage of taxes does the top 1% of earners pay? What about the top 5%? The lowest 50%? How do such tax rates affect incentives to become a successful entrepreneur? 2. Go to the Census Bureau's website, census.gov, and learn what the population of the United States is at this moment. While at the site, you may want to look up the population in your town or city. Explore what other data is available at this site. Which trends seem most important to you and to business people in general? Do a Google search for business blogs and check out some of the available results. Go to one of the blogs that seems interesting to you and write a brief paragraph about it, including such things as who sponsors it, who contributes the posts, and what other features it has, and how it may help a student in an introductory business course. Page 23. Developing career skills. Key. Team. Analytic. Communication. Technology. 1. Poll the class and determine which students believe that climate change is primarily caused by humans and which believe that other factors such as climate cycles or sunspots are the primary cause. Discuss what students can do to minimize human effects on the environment regardless of the primary causes of climate change. Are there any negative consequences to trying to minimize humans' impact on the environment? 2. Imagine you are a local business person who has to deal with the issue of outsourcing. You want to begin with the facts. How many, if any, jobs have been lost to outsourcing in your area? Are there any foreign firms in your area that are creating jobs, insourcing? You will need to go online to find out the data you need. 3. What indicates that you and other people in the United States have a high standard of living. What are some signs that maintaining such a high standard of living may have a negative impact on quality of life? Does everyone in the United States enjoy a high standard of living? If not, how does this impact their quality of life? 4. Use Yelp to find 5 businesses that provide services in your area. List those businesses, and for each, describe how social trends, such as building a diverse workforce, might affect them. Be prepared to explain your descriptions to your team or the whole class as your instructor directs. 5. Form into teams of 4 or 5 and discuss the technological and e-commerce revolutions. How often do students shop for goods and services online? What have been their experiences? What other technology do they use? Smartphones, tablets, laptops, etc. Discuss what life, school, and work would be like without these devices. Career exploration. At the end of each chapter, we offer a brief list of potential careers that deal with the concepts present in the chapter. Since this first chapter is an overview of all the different fields of business, we thought we'd concentrate on identifying a few careers in the sector with the most jobs, services. Find out about the tasks performed, skills needed, pay, and opportunity outlook in these careers in the Occupational Outlook Handbook, OOH, at bls.gov. Lodging manager ensures that guests on vacation or business travel have a pleasant experience at a hotel, motel, or other type of establishment with accommodations. And that the business is run efficiently and profitably. Meeting and event planner coordinates all aspects of events and professional meetings, including arranging meeting locations, transportation, and other details. Interior designer selects and specifies colors, furniture, and other materials to create useful and stylish interiors for buildings. Network and computer systems administrator, responsible for the day-to-day operation of computer networks. video case. McGraw-Hill Connect. TaskRabbit keeps the gig economy hopping.
You've probably heard a business described as a disruptor. Disruptors are companies that have the potential to change or, in some cases, entirely displace existing companies and industries. These new companies can have innovative technologies or operations that are more efficient, forcing legacy companies to rethink how they do business. Disruptors are largely responsible for the creation of the gig economy, which is economic activity that involves the use of temporary or independent contractors to perform jobs, typically in the service sector. One of the early pioneers of the modern gig economy is TaskRabbit, an online marketplace that provides customers easy access to a network of skilled independent contractors who can offer a vast array of services, from cleaning and minor home repairs to furniture assembly and errands.
So Leah Bosk was living in Boston at the time, and it was 2008, and it was pouring and cold outside, and she was out of food for her dog. And she really didn't have time to go get the food. She was on her way out the door, and she thought to herself, oh, I wish there was just some way I could press a button and someone would be willing to bring me the dog food. Of course, I'll pay them for it, just so that I don't have to do it myself. And so that's how the idea got started. And that was 2008, and now over a decade later, we have had almost 10 million tasks done on our two-sided marketplace, where essentially we connect taskers, those who want to help, with those who need help, our clients.
Key elements that gave rise to the gig economy were the complete adoption of smartphones, which really changed how people live, work, and spend their money, the workforce becoming more mobile and wanting more flexibility, and generational change beginning in the workplace.
Because more and more people are asking for flexibility, where we have seen just a rise in everyone asking for more autonomy and more control over their schedules and their time, more ability to spend time with family and so on. Having a platform where they can work when they want and where they want and get paid how much they want has been really helpful.
COVID-19 wreaked havoc on the economy. While some businesses struggled or failed, others, especially in the gig economy, boomed.
Slowly, starting in the summer of 2020, people started doing more and more work at home, and home became the core of where we eat, work, play, and do everything else. And so a lot of people felt like they needed help to fix their homes, to do that small new project to make themselves more comfortable. For fiscal year 21, our growth was nearly 70% year on year. We are now closing out or getting close to the end of fiscal year 22, and we're seeing very similar growth rates.
I started TaskRabbit in July 2020, and since then I've done about 1,500, 1,600 jobs on the app. I specialize in moving, mounting, and furniture assembly. Those are my three main categories. In 2021, on the app alone, I cleared 165 grand. I would say my record month was in July, which I made 23 grand. I don't think it's for everyone, but I think the ease of access, since it's so easy to sign up, it allows everyone to try it and make it suit their needs.
Although the future is always difficult to predict, the continued growth and reliance on technology in business seems certain. Technology has enabled workers to be more efficient, effective, productive, and live with greater flexibility and mobility. It has also given consumers a great deal of information at their fingertips. The gig economy has now shown year-over-year growth for a decade, with almost half of all millennials using online platforms to find freelance work, and half of the U.S. workforce having worked in it at some point in their career. In fact, the gig economy is currently growing 3 times faster than the traditional workforce.
we believe we're just getting started. We see this in other sectors as well, but we know with the gig economy, whether it's food delivery or whether it's rides, and then just with independent contractors and the need for flexibility and autonomy to have more control over your time, we don't see that changing or slowing down anytime soon. In fact, we see it actually continuing to grow.
You probably have been in a class or movie where a disruptor causes a ruckus and ruins the class or movie for everyone. You might think then that a disruptor in business causes similar problems. Not true. Disruptors are companies that have the potential to change, or in some cases, entirely displace existing companies and industries. They create innovative technologies or operations that force long-standing companies to rethink or retool their businesses. TaskRabbit is one of the early disruptors. Disruptors helped establish the gig economy. The gig economy is economic activity that offers temporary or independent contractors to perform needed tasks, generally in the service sector. TaskRabbit founder Leah Busquet had an idea of an online marketplace one evening when she couldn't leave her house to go out and buy dog food. She envisioned an opportunity to match taskers, workers who would do odd jobs and chores, with customers who needed high-quality help. TaskRabbit created an online marketplace that provided a network of skilled, independent contractors who offered services ranging from cleaning and minor home repairs to furniture assembly and errands. After years of fast-paced growth, TaskRabbit was acquired by Inca Group, the owner of IKEA. Page 24. The gig economy and TaskRabbit were bolstered by adoption of smartphones, which changed how we live our lives. Workers became more mobile and flexible and looked to work in a flexible work environment. TaskRabbit helped supplement their income and gave them the chance to work when and where they wanted. The COVID-19 pandemic created huge problems for the overall economy, but not for TaskRabbit. Early in the pandemic, TaskRabbit shifted to contactless and virtual tasks in accordance with public health recommendations. With limited reopening of the economy, things started to ease a bit. The company used technology to reach customers during the limited human contact interaction period, as customers looked for expert help with home projects. As the pandemic eased a bit more, TaskRabbit saw the demand for home-based jobs pick up steadily, and home projects increased significantly. TaskRabbit experienced strong growth, primarily with the demand growing for furniture assembly, mounting, and minor home repairs. The gig economy has experienced year after year growth, with almost half of all millennials using online platforms to locate freelance work. Workers. Although the future is difficult to predict, the gig economy is growing 3 times faster than the traditional workforce, and all signs point to a bright future. Platforms like TaskRabbit can be a lifeline for workers to make money during difficult times or to supplement their income. It also provides flexibility and economic freedom sought by many workers. And let's not forget, its services fit the needs of many customers seeking help for jobs or services that don't fit their lifestyles. Thinking it over. 1. Do you think the gig economy and companies such as TaskRabbit will remain a permanent part of the U.S. economy? Why or why not? 2. What do you think is the most attractive feature of working for a company such as TaskRabbit? Page 25. Notes. 1. Bloomberg Billionaire Index. Bloomberg.com. February 6th, 2023. Sean Ross. Top 10 wealthiest families in the world. Investopedia.com. December 7th, 2022. Keith Gordon. How Sam Walton Built the Walmart Empire. Maxim.com. January 25th, 2023. Global Wealth Report 2022. Credit Suisse. creditsuisse.com. Accessed February 2023. Georgia McIntyre. What percentage of small businesses fail? Fundera.com. Accessed February 23rd, 2023. 4. Andy Medici. COVID-19 fueled a surge of new businesses, but the trend is evolving. The Business Journals, bizjournals.com, January 20th, 2023. Nada R. Sanders and the Conversation. How COVID changed supply chains forever. Fortune.com, January 11th, 2023. David Harrison. Pandemic should change how firms to hire and retain workers. U.S. Labor Secretary says. The Wall Street Journal. WSJ.com. January 17th, 2023. 5. Nicholas Vega. Elon Musk's $182 billion net worth. Drop breaks Guinness World Record. CNBC.com. January 10th, 2023. 6. Leading 500 Fortune companies based on number of employees in 2022. Statista.com. January 3rd, 2023. 7. Nick Barney, stakeholder. TechTarget.com. January 2023. Stakeholder. Corporate Finance Institute. CorporateFinanceInstitute.com. November 26th, 2022. 8. Getting requirements from stakeholders. Computer Science Wiki. ComputerScienceWiki.org. Accessed February 2023. Jason Fernando. What are stakeholders? Investopedia. Investopedia.com. June 29th, 2022. Jay Milligan. 4 stakeholder engagement steps for a successful business transformation. Forbes. Forbes.com. February 1st, 2023. John Iwata, Nicholas Matrit, and Lisa Malhart. How to manage complex stakeholder interests. Think like a designer. Fortune.com. February 2nd, 2023. 9. Hyundai.com. Accessed February 2023. 10. Honda. HondaInAmerica.com. Accessed February 2023. 11. Drucker Institute. Drucker.Institute. Accessed February 2023. 12. The 17 Goals. United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. SDGs.UN.org. Accessed February 2023. 13. Zicheng Wang. Huiting Liu. Tianfeng Li. Li Wan Zhu. ETAL. The impact of internet use on citizens, trust in government, the mediating role of sense of security. Systems, 2023. MDPI.com. Accessed February 2023. Kate Conger. Twitter to relax ban on political ads. The New York Times. NewYorkTimes.com. January 3rd, 2023. 14. Sophie Nolik. How technology will change the face of behavioral health in the next 5 years. Behavioral Health Business, bhbusiness.com, February 2nd, 2023. Steve Van Kuiken, Tech at the Edge, Trends Reshaping the Future of IT and Business. McKinsey Digital, mckinsey.com, October 21st, 2022. Jessica Nederson, Impact of Technology on Business. Herzing University, herzing.edu. Accessed February 2023. 15. Gary Davis, 7 Ideas to Maximize Business Productivity in 2023. Intelligent Living, intelligentliving.co. January 8th, 2023. Gleb Tisipersky, 76% of managers now agree hybrid employees are more productive. This is how you can unlock their full productivity potential. Entrepreneur.com. January 14th, 2023. 16. Agriculture Technology, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, nifa.usda.gov. S. Accessed February 2023. Lucy Nijij, who were the most active food and agriculture technology venture capital firms in 2022. AFN, agfundernews.com, February 1st, 2023. Agriculture and Technology, an Essential Partnership. Market Screener, marketscreener.com, January 31st, 2023. 17. E-commerce as percentage of total retail sales in the United States from 2013 to 2025. Statista.com, February 18th, 2022. Online shopping behavior in the United States. Statista.com. Accessed February 2023. 18. Bridget Honecker, Old Navy, Nissan, Equifax, other class action settlement payments in the mail. Top Class Actions, topclassactions.com, January 31st, 2023. Kerry Pallardi, T-Mobile's $350 million settlement and the future of data breach consequences. Information Week, informationweek.com, January 6th, 2023. Equifax data breach settlement, Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov, December 2022. Bev O'Shea, did you request free monitoring in the Equifax settlement? Check your email. NerdWallet, nerdwallet.com, February 1st, 2023. 19. 5 tips to protect yourself from identity theft in 2023. Data Science Central, datasciencecentral.com, January 17th, 2023. Luke Bensi and Sydney Williams, help your employees make strong passwords a habit. Harvard Business Review, hbr.org. January 30th, 2023. Tony Bradley, the key to effective identity security for 2023. Forbes, Forbes.com. January 27th, 2023. Narasimha Raju, how to stay cyber secure in 2023. CXO Today, cxotoday.com. February 2nd, 2023. 20. Cybercrime and security. Predictions for 2023. The Hacker News, thehackernews.com. December 19th, 2023. Cyrus Vance, governments and businesses are key partners against cybercrime. Bloomberg Law, bloomberglaw.com. February 2nd, 2023. 21. Max Zane, controversy illuminates rise of facial recognition in private sector. ABC News, abcnews.com. January 7th, 2023. Tamlin McGee, are biometrics as safe as we think? raconteur.net, May 3rd, 2023. 22. Bursin Resamoglu, companies must continue to prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion, even during tough economic times. Forbes, Forbes.com. January 31st, 2023.